Well, I was alarmed by one statistic there, and that was 65% of people in this country didn't bother to vote.
Yeah, and I wanted to actually raise this, follow up what Ian was saying about the economic context in which we're in, and what one of the Asian gentlemen said on the Vox Pops at Brick Lane. I really think we shouldn't let the British government off the hook on this one, because we're talking about the rise of the far right, but I don't think the far right could be developing as it is in the last few years, and potentially in the near future, without what the British government has done throughout the Thatcher's years. And the miners' strike was the real showdown between the future of this country going in a progressive direction and the future of this country which actually happened, which is in the Thatcherite and kind of the
yes,
individualistic
but Thatcher was a conservative government.
And neoliberal, exactly. And where Ian is absolutely correct, and I concur with Ian, is that the Labour government has continued policies which has led to a yawning gap between rich and poor. And frankly, if this government could resolve the housing crisis, that would be one of the best and most efficient ways, and actually kind of taking the power and the wind out of the sails of the far right. But also there's some truth in what Mr. Uncle is saying. I disagree with much of his party, obviously, but where there's some truth is that there is a crisis of cultural identity, and this maybe I differ slightly with Wayman on this one, but that's linked to the economic situation. So the rise of the independence and the national movements in Wales, Scotland, and arguably in Cornwall now is to do with the fact that those people increasingly don't want to go down the path, the economic path, the foreign policy path, and the race relations path of what's happening in England and what the government in Westminster have been doing. And so part of that movement is a rejection towards a progressive direction, and unfortunately Mr. Uncle's party represents that English sentiment which you have to connect with the history of English colonialism. Instead of many English people saying, well, the Scots are doing quite well, let's learn from them constructively and positively, as the Welsh are, as I would say.
But there is a Scottish nationalist party.
No, absolutely, but what I'm saying is English people should engage constructively and positively and learn the progressive lessons from Scotland and Wales and Ireland,
well, we think
rather than going the other way in increasing division and in increasing the failed policies which are disuniting our communities.
I mean, fundamentally, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland have all achieved their own parliament and assemblies, and that is our flagship policy. All we want is an English parliament. And that is equality with the other nations. The other thing is that the Labour government, which we perceive as being a left-wing government, has actually brought in some of the most right-wing policies over the last few years, like detention without trial, like councils having the right to snoop on your own records. And CCTV cameras.
I think the BNP is a fascist party, but also right-wing populism can try and replace some of the feelings that people have. And I'll be clear that when Gordon Brown said British jobs for British workers, the BNP did not stand as a British National Party. They stood as British jobs for British workers, BNP, right?